Welcome to a new episode of TTG Conversations 5 Questions video series. I'm Karen Yu, Group Editor of TTG Asia Media. In this episode, we will look at why Asia is shaping up to be the travel powerhouse this year, 2026. And taking us through this topic is Edgar Lacker, CEO of Aviareps. And Aviareps, as you know, is a global representation company serving the travel and tourism industry. Happy New Year to you, Edgar. You're my first guest speaker for the year.
Thank you, Karen. Happy New Year to you too. And it's great to be the first in line in 2026.
Yeah. I've got 5 questions for you, and here's the first. Now, how valuable will Asia be in 2026, both as a tourism destination and a traveler source market?
Well, thank you for this question. Asia, Southeast Asia, or Asia in general, will remain, let's say, one of the powerhouses of this planet when it comes to not only receiving as a destination, but also in the outbound segment. We have seen significant growth, especially in the last year, 2025, which, let's say, the final figures are not yet compiled, but the trend looks very, very healthy when it comes to growth rates as an outbound destination from Asia and equally going into Asia. You know, you have drivers like Vietnam as an example, being one of the strongest inbound growth markets in your region, or even the strongest, in relative numbers. So we are talking about a 20% growth of visitors to Vietnam in 2025 versus the year before, which is, I think it's amazing. It's significant, such a growth rate, even surpassing Thailand in this kind of volumes which we are talking about. So you see there's dynamics into Asia, but also outbound. We see so many pick up from Asian travelers interregional, but also internationally. The biggest driver we see definitely comes from countries like the Philippines in terms of percentage growth. Volume-wise, it will always be India and China. That's, you know, just given the sheer size of the market, it's giants. That's very correct. But looking at the other ones, Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, you see really significant growth rates over the previous years. And we can say that we are even surpassing pre-pandemic levels when it comes to outbound. And on inbound, we are almost at 100% at the same level as pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. So Asia, to conclude your first question, will remain one of the key drivers and powerhouses of this planet.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. What factors are tailwinds for Asia's continued rise in the travel tourism sector?
Mm-hmm. First of all, you have this economic resilience in Asia in general, which really is one of the baselines to drive tourism, to drive travel. Since the economies are strong and they are growing year on year, and you have a growing middle class in the region with disposable income, which is going to be spent into travel. You can see that in all of the markets. And another great example would again be Indonesia. It's a huge market. It's a huge population, and even if there's only a few percent of the population is starting to travel, we're already talking about hundreds of thousands to millions of people traveling, and this is something which we are seeing. You have this demographic shift as well. You have a lot of Gen Z and millennials in the region, which of course have the disposable income and started to travel. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, in the next 10 to 20 years, you will have in the region roughly around 1.5 billion people in the age group of 60 plus, who by that time will also have so much, they will be seasoned travelers already, mm-hmm. And have the disposable income as well to continue traveling and exploring the world, mm-hmm. which is great news for Asia, and which the growth will simply continue as we speak.
Yeah.
Looking at, for example, Singapore, where you come from, mm-hmm. You are the single biggest spenders per capita. We're talking about $10,500 in average per capita for travel. per year, which is a significant amount, which is 50% higher than the average in Asia. But looking at the size of the market again, you are not as huge as your neighbors, but the spending is powerful. So also Singapore, not only receiving, but also from Singapore is an important source market for many destinations because of your spending power and your will to travel. Then you have also seen a lot of things when it comes to easing up visas in the region. E-visa facilities, visa on arrivals. Prior a couple of years or even before the pandemic, it was quite not as easy as it is today to get access to many of the countries. Today, it's super easy, be it for you within Asia, but also for, let's say, foreigners from the international perspective. An e-visa is being produced within hours at latest. It's cost effective, it's fast, it's quick. You don't need to go to embassies. China even has waived a lot of visas for many, let's say, countries. So that also will definitely also further push arrivals into China on the tourism, but also on the business sector. So I think there's a lot of things that are going to happen that are factoring in and fueling the growth of Asia. And visa is certainly one of those things that support. And looking at our region here, Europe, we're currently, it's really very cold. We all really like to travel to Asia for not only the diversity and the cultural the cultural experience, but also for the culinary experience and for the climate change, which we really enjoy during these very cold months. Airlift has grown significantly also within Asia, but also to Asia. Connectivity, as just a little example, we are based here in Munich, which is a city in Germany, which you probably know.
Yes.
We have a rather big airport in Europe. It's one of the top 10 airports in Europe. And only last year, Vietnam Airlines, as an example, they have launched flights from Hanoi, but also from Ho Chi Minh City. Cathay Pacific has launched flights into Munich. So you see, and these flights are really full. Every flight single is operating at 90% plus because of this demand of people from Europe also going into Asia. But also we are seeing so many of you guys receiving here in our part of the world, which is just great. And I think it's super important to have Asia also for the destinations, talking about these destinations here where I'm sitting, to really make proper advertisement in Asia to attract more of you guys, especially in winter. I think you like winter.
Yes, Asians will always go to Europe for winter because it really feels like a white winter.
No, 100%. I mean, last weekend I've been traveling coincidentally to Austria, and I passed by the city of Hallstatt. I'm sure you all know that because this is your influencer hotspot of all the Asians. And I was really impressed. I was expecting a lot of tourists, and there have been a lot of tourists because there was fresh snow. It was really winter wonderland, as you imagine. But I would say 90% of these tourists came from Asia. And that was
Wonderful.
really eye-opening as well, that even in January, when it's minus 12 degrees, so many of you guys have come
wonderland
to visit.
for us. Minus
Yes,
12.
it is. And vice versa. For us, it's wonderland going to Singapore now,
Yeah. Okay. Well, the industry knows that China continues to be a crucial source market despite its softening economic conditions and softening consumer buying power post-pandemic. So what should tourism destinations and tourism suppliers keep in mind, as they continue to pursue Chinese travelers in 2026?
Well, it took China quite a while after the pandemic to come back to former strength and the volumes. Still on the long haul front, Chinese travelers are still way below pre-pandemic levels, but you're not within Asia. Within Asia, regional travel, China is already ahead of pre-pandemic levels. But what has changed significantly, I think, is not only the growing demand when it comes to individualized and personalized experiences. We both remember probably when Chinese travelers came by and large in really large groups. Yeah. So that was the typically the classical, I would say, holiday of the Chinese people in general. But this has changed tremendously and entirely. You see a lot of individual travelers, FIT travelers. This is the new normal in China, I'd say. And you see also a shift in demographics. There's so much younger people who are interested in culinary, who are interested in nature, who are interested in real authentic experiences. So that has changed significantly as a destination. Attracting Chinese travelers, I think you have to just adopt to the new normal of China, and that is predominantly, and as that we all know, Chinese travelers, they are all in the social media world. This is where they live, and this is where they all get their inspiration from. So you have, there's so many influencers in China, and Chinese travelers really follow these real influencers when they travel, what they experience, the kind of experiences they do. Well, safety is always one of the most important subjects or considerations for the Chinese traveler. But then comes the cultural diversity, it comes the culinary experience, it comes to sustainability, to nature. So, there's so many aspects of the new Chinese travelers, and they, as a matter of fact, they are consulting the online platforms, and this Xiao Hongshu, I hope I pronounce it kind of correct. This little red book, this is, it's a game changer. This is really what this Generation Z and the millennials, they're all consulting on this platform, be it on Instagram, as the combination of Instagram, Pinterest, but also Amazon features and Alipay and all that. So that is just unique to China. And destinations, they just need to keep that in mind, advertise in Chinese language, in the proper media, and focusing on particularly these new travelers. And then I think it is, you have all the credentials to receive the Chinese travelers in the future, but you need to play along with the rules of China. That is absolutely of significant importance. So, and mobile first, Chinese language, this will always be crucial and important to attract Chinese travelers in the future.
Yeah, that's right. Another thing I learned, Edgar, was when I went to China recently for my own holiday, that the service level is really, really high in China. And this is something that destinations will have to realize as well, because if the Chinese are expecting that level of service level in the domestic destinations, they would expect the same in international destinations as well.
Absolutely. And even paying a premium for what you pay in China for excellent service, as you correctly said. Just maybe as a side input, 2 years ago, we have launched together with the Shanghai government a platform called Smooth Travel, which is a B2B platform connecting, receiving tour operators with tour operators in China, global operators, global DMCs with Chinese tour operators and travel agencies, to really have a quality product. So somebody who wants to receive, as an example, Chinese tourists in Colombia, as an example, would advertise or would provide his credentials on the platform. It will be verified by our teams, and then the conversation starts between the Chinese tour operator and the Colombian receiving agent. Payment is done over the platform. Arbitration, in case of needed, will be also performed, and it's, as I said, it's powered by Shanghai government in cooperation with Aviareps in Shanghai. So I think it's a very strong tool also to make sure quality is being guaranteed and provided on a global basis also for the Chinese traveler. And if something goes wrong, the platform will do the job for them and get it done.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful product. Thanks for mentioning that.
Certainly.
Now, earlier on in our conversation, you identified a lot of traveler source markets in Asia that are really growing in terms of importance. Now, I do have to ask you, which ones would you say are a must for destinations outside of Asia to really start researching seriously and establishing their own marketing initiatives, and why would these markets be very valuable?
let me start with India, because to me, I still consider India part of Asia. Maybe you have a different point of view, but
Yes, it is. Definitely, it is in Asia, yeah.
wonderful. So just looking at the growth rate, let's look at the population of India first. Yeah? So we are comparing to China, and then you see the growth, which is second to none, which we experience in China. Have we had 13 million outbound trips last year from India? We expect to have 80 million. So it's even 5 times as much within the next 3 years only. Why is that? Again, size of the market. Secondly, really a very strong economy and the massively growing middle class that affords travel and that really spends on travel as well. Plus, significant improvement of air connectivity to and from India to various parts of the world, be it on short haul, mid haul, or long haul flights. So, it's very, very connected. And you see this extreme growth from India coming. So, India will be certainly one of the key markets to focus on if you want to have volumes. On the other hand, you have to look at classical markets, be it Japan, but also Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia always used to be, let's say, predominantly an inbound destination, looking at the rest of the world because of the beauties it has to offer, the price value you receive in Southeast Asia. However, also here we see the economies have been really developing extremely well over the last, let's say, 2 to 3 decades, allowing today a certain level of great living, huge, let's say, growing disposable income, which enables a lot of inhabitants to really consider traveling. And you can see that in particular on these markets I mentioned before, and these are, let's say, role model markets, or these markets to highlight and markets to really focus on for outbound: Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand always, but also Indonesia. So if you look at this Southeast Asian bubble or market, the growth rate is massive. We are talking about also 20 to 25% growth year on year on outbound travel, and 20% is massive. Regardless from the baseline, 20% is just significant. Here, looking at these, let's say, mature markets in Europe, we are happy if the growth rate is 3%. So 20 to 25% is really outstanding. So these markets we have to definitely look at, and the number one outbound travel in the last 2025 was indeed Vietnam, with a 50% growth even over 2024, which is phenomenal.
Okay, so we have tackled demand. So let's move on to supply for our last question. Which Asian destinations will rise in prominence this year and why?
Well, I think rising in prominence, there will be, for a couple of travelers, will be Bhutan as the happiest country in the world. It's opening a little bit more the borders, allowing a bit more of travelers.
Yes.
I'm grateful it remains as it is currently, more or less, to avoid over tourism as well. So that is a very popular destination, really. If you in this part of the world again, Bhutan is really top of mind. But on the other hand, Vietnam, again, they are going to outperform in the region. That is simply phenomenal. And they did a proper marketing over the last couple of years. And Vietnam now is definitely surpassing Thailand in its attraction. Be it, going to street cafes in Hanoi, going to Halong Bay, whatever it is, the experiences in Vietnam, value for money is exceptional, is still great. Then we are looking into the destinations such as the Philippines. They're also doing a tremendous job when it comes to marketing of the various islands and the products available in the Philippines. And you see a significant growth towards going into the Philippines. Malaysia is very strong in intra-Asia. You're receiving a lot of Chinese guests, even surpassing Thailand, which is also phenomenal. And Indonesia will also further grow just because of the diversity and the size of the country and the variety of possible vacations or trips you might be able to do. And then we've got, let's say, a little one, this kind of a not so popular destinations, be it Laos, be it Cambodia, but they are also experiencing a significant growth. So all in all, I would say the region of Southeast Asia and Asia as such will be definitely the biggest growing destination globally.
It sounds like a lot of competition for the Southeast Asian neighbors for tourism then, huh, Edgar?
Yes, it
They better
definitely
be spending
does.
more on marketing then.
Well, I think there is a market for each and every one. You know, this planet has a lot of travelers globally, and not each and every destination is for each and every single individual.
That's
A
true.
lot of destinations in Southeast Asia might even be combined in a trip, you know, because if we are going that far, if we are flying for 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever it is, we might even want to combine 2 or 3 countries even, or having a stopover in Singapore while continuing further to the Philippines, and so on and so forth. So I think there will always be competition, and competition is healthy.
Yeah.
But there's also diversity because no country is like the other. So, you know, and you also want to attract people to return to Southeast Asia, to Asia as such, having the culinary experiences, having the cultural diversity. So one trip will not do the work. So anyhow,
Wonderful.
always you need to continue promoting what you have, and you have so much to offer and so much to sell. And everybody will just be gaining from the diversity and the variety Southeast Asia has to offer.
Great, great, great. That's all the questions I have for you, Edgar. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode.
Thank you, Karen, for inviting me, being the first one in early January.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Also, mine too. So past and future episodes of TTG Conversations, 5 questions can be found on the TTG YouTube channel. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye.